Welcome, everyone. Today, we're diving into a topic that so many of us wrestle with: how to stop second guessing everything we say. Have you ever walked away from a conversation replaying your words in your head? Should I have said that? Did I sound too harsh? Did I say too much or not enough? Well, if so, you're not alone. Look, it happened to me just yesterday. I'll tell you about it in a minute. And I had to talk to myself this morning, get myself back in the zone. Okay. So, in today's episode, I want to show you what's really going on underneath the second guessing, which is why y'all are here, because you're like, why do I do this? And how you can learn to trust your voice again. Here's a quote to chew on while we get started. Your voice is your power. Use it boldly, even if it shakes. I love that. The author is unknown. Okay, meanwhile, if you're new here, welcome. So glad to have you here. My name is Karen Marinez. I'm an emotional wellness coach. I help the exhausted woman who struggles to feel comfortable in her own skin, has low self-esteem, so she overextends herself to please others, and she ends up more exhausted. I help you to identify and process your emotions so you can find peace, passion, and purpose. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And if you want to get in the chat, you have to subscribe first, give it a minute, and then you'll be allowed to chat. Okay, I'm looking at, I have a lot of messages going on. What's going on here? Oh, no. Okay. So I want to say hi to everybody. As you're coming in, please say hi. But I'm going to start from the bottom. Carlene says Marion and Robbie are trying to link but are not able to. The link is in the emotional wellness chat. Please click on the link and you'll get right there. Okay. And Carlene, apparently now your sound is better. You got that going. I'm going to start from the bottom up. You're good now. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I see that two people are trying to get into, but you got to click on the YouTube link. Okay. Tiffany, hey, Tiffany's a member. Hello, good to see you, Tiff. It's a hello, PJ. Hey, Pam, Debbie, Carlene, Andrea, Leah, my dear Elvin, Carolyn, Sally, Imani, Shawnee Boo, Priscilla, and Reignite Your Radiance. Geo is here. So good to have you all here. I'm blessed to have you. Um, at Me Best is here. Good afternoon. I was having trouble too. Exit and try again. It worked for me. Okay. So maybe YouTube is doing some stuff over there. But anyway, I appreciate you being here. Those of you on the couch, not in the chat, but you're watching, I see you and I appreciate you too. Thank you for being here. All right. So let's get started right away because that's what you're here for. Where does the second guessing come from? It starts here. Second guessing is a protective response. It's a way to protect you. Robbie made it. Okay. Hey, Robbie. And hey, Danielle. Good to see you. Danielle's probably on her couch, and I appreciate you for getting in the chat too. It is 9 o'clock, right? So that protective response, it usually starts in childhood or early adulthood when we learn that speaking up comes with consequences, like being criticized, misunderstood, right? We're being told we're too much or not enough. Wadi said, thank you for seeing him. Hey, Wadi, that's right. You chill out and rest and just listen. That's perfectly fine. I appreciate it. And so we develop this habit of scanning everything we say after the fact to make sure it was acceptable. And ooh, our minds go in circles. We're going to talk about that spiraling. But here's the truth. The fear isn't really about the words, right? It's about the reaction of the other person. We're going to get into that later as well. Okay. Because we're afraid of judgment, conflict, rejection. We're afraid of making a mistake that costs us connection. I don't want to lose her as a friend. I don't want her or him to go away, my relationship. I don't want my boss to not like me, right? All the things. We're afraid of losing our connection to people. Here's another quote for you. Audre Lorde, with an E at the end. When we speak, we're afraid our words will not be heard or welcomed. But when we are silent, we're still afraid. So it's better to speak. And it is, right? Do it with the fear. Okay. So what's the cost of overthinking what we say? When you second guess yourself constantly, you water down your truth. You start avoiding important conversations. How many conversations have you just like, I'd rather not have it because, and they're important conversations that need to be had. You also lose confidence in your ability to show up authentically. And we had Priscilla said, can I post the quotes in the chat? You love them? I will, because I love quotes too. That's why I love sharing them. I'll definitely post them in the chat. Yeah, we did a podcast, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks ago or so about showing up authentically. Do you show up in the world as your true self? Or do you always have a mask on that the people that want to be the closest to you feel like they aren't really dealing with the real us, right? So what happens over time? Your inner voice gets quieter and the voice of doubt gets louder. And if your inner voice is quieted down, that's not good. Why? Because you deserve to take up space. You deserve to be heard. You're a person. You deserve to have your voice heard. Okay, Rosemary, hola, Rosemary. So let me ask you this. What would your life feel like if you didn't have to keep editing yourself just to feel safe? While I'm going to give you 2 everyday examples, could you type that in the chat? What would your life feel like if you didn't have to keep editing yourself just to feel safe? Here are 2 examples, everyday examples of second guessing your words. One is in a work meeting. You say, after I shared my idea, I immediately thought, was that dumb? Should I have said it differently? Did I speak too much? Really, it shows how imposter syndrome or fear of judgment can hijack our confidence, even in professional settings. And then the rest of the meeting, we're sitting there like, what's my boss going to say? What do my coworkers think about me, right? The second everyday example, you like somebody or you admire them. You may say, I stared at that message. I wrote the text, but I stared at that message for 10 minutes before hitting send. And then I reread it 5 more times after I sent it. What does that show? It highlights the pressure to say it perfectly and the fear of rejection. So we're afraid of being rejected, of losing connection. We say what we say, and then we're afraid that the consequence of that is a loss of connection. But there's good news. You can rewire that response because, again, it's to protect you. It's something you learned in childhood that it's not safe to speak your mind. So you quiet it down, you lower that voice, or you shut the voice down altogether. So, how do you stop? How do you stop second guessing? If you want to take notes, this is the time. 4 practices that can help. Number 1, and this is what I had to do this morning, pause the playback loop. Press pause. When you catch yourself over analyzing something, just gently say to yourself, I said what I said with the best of who I was in that moment. All we can do is give our best. We cannot be perfect. Perfection does not exist, but we can give our best in any given moment. Interrupt that loop of overjudgment, overthinking, overanalyzing with grace, not more judgment, because that keeps us in the loop and we stay there and we stay there. And it's not good. So here's my true confession yesterday. What happened to Coach Karen? I'm talking to a dear friend. She's a caretaker for her dad. And she has a lot of health issues. She's young, but she has a lot of health issues. Back, swelling ankles, legs, all the things, like high blood pressure, and she takes a lot of medication and things like that. And she tells me about this stuff. And then I see her trying to take her dad, get him in a wheelchair, and walk him like, I don't know, 7 or 8 New York blocks out. And he's a big man. And I'm like, why not ask for help? Why not get this one or that one? And or why don't you let this one help wait for you outside and you pull up? No. And everything I said, she was like, no, no, no. And I said, but you have back problems. You She has told me that sometimes she feels like an old lady. She feels like she needs a walker because her back it's almost crippling. And she insisted on taking him in the wheelchair. And I thought it might be even raining outside. Like, why would you do that to yourself? But I felt bad afterwards. Like, should I have said it? I don't want her to think I'm judging her. But the person I was really judging was myself. And she did what she wanted to do, which is fine. She's entitled, right? She's a woman, an adult, and everybody has free will. I walked away. I said, okay, right. Let me mind my business, step back. I was like, Karen, you probably said too much. You should. And I told Elvin, next time, just kind of grab my hand, so I'll stop. But what did I say? Everything was true. I said it with love. And I was the best of who I was in that moment. And I had good intentions. The motive was love. Hopefully she felt that. If she didn't, it's not that I didn't give it with love. Anyway, I had to pause it, Karen. Stop it, Karen, right? Number 2, befriend your nervous system, because second guessing is a sign your nervous system feels unsafe. And that's basically what it is. In this particular relationship with this person, she's lovely, but it's not a secure relationship. Let's put it that way. I could tell. And it's, sometimes I'm good with her, sometimes I'm not, like from her point of view. Um, yeah. So what can you do? Deep breathing, hand on your heart. That helps. That's just me doing this. It's very comforting. A body scan. We've talked about scanning your body, not literally, but where do I feel this? Where's the anxiety? What's going on here? Especially after a hard conversation. Sometimes we're like flustered, right? And again, we're concerned about that connection. Did I lose that person? Did I push them away? Will we ever be able to, if they got offended, will we ever be able to get back to where we were? It's that insecurity, that unsafety, not feeling safe that pushes us like that. And if we do those things, it can help your body learn, I'm okay, I'm safe, everything's okay. I needed to say what I said. I used tact. I was pleasant. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I wasn't sarcastic. What I said came from a place of love, right? So we're not just going to go around saying what we want to say in whatever form or fashion. No, we're going to say it in a way that is a delivery to the person that we feel is loving, kind, and from a place of love. It's respectful, right? Of course, you all know, if you don't know, in July 1st, I'm doing a class called Assertive Communication. A few of you have signed up, and it's going to teach you how to communicate better. Even our facial expressions, tone of voice, our look, all those things affect how the other person reads us, what they interpret, right? So we can't just say what we want to say whatever way we want to say it and insult people and be sarcastic and yell and scream and then say, well, look, I said what I had to say. You're entitled to say what you want to say, but we want to say it to reach the other person's heart. We don't want to start fires. We want to communicate assertively and get through to the other person. All right. Number 3, rewrite the story. So ask yourself, what story am I telling myself about how I came across? That's usually probably the issue too. The way we read what we said may or may not be true. Then ask yourself, is there a more compassionate version of that story? And that's what I had to say to myself, Karen, but you said it because you love her. She has told you how her back, and she's walking, and she's young, and the wheelchair, and walking on these bumpy New York City sidewalks and crossing the street and all. Right? So it came from a good place. There was legitimate reason for me to say what I said. And I didn't yell, scream, I didn't disrespect her at all. But I had to rewrite the story in my head. So often the story that we're telling ourselves, our own interpretation of what we said is not truth. It's fear-based narrative. It's very interesting. Our minds are like, wow, right? So here's an example of second guessing yourself after a conflict or misunderstanding. This might sound familiar to you. You say, I replayed the conversation in my head over and over, thinking of all the things I should have said differently. I was just talking to a client today. She said that, Karen, I'm so glad you're doing this topic because I had a conversation with someone in my family and I don't know, and right. But rumination often follows emotional conversations, especially if someone fears being misunderstood or disliked. Again, where does this leave us with this person? Does she still like me? Will she love me? Will we be able to have our relationship still? That insecurity, it's fear-based. We are afraid that this relationship is not going to go any farther. So let me see what you put in the chat. It says she would feel liberated and more confident if she could stop this over and over, this second guessing every word. Tiff says, I would have more peace not focusing on perfection, stop second guessing. Yeah. So some have been able to rewrite their story because someone else was in the room, heard the conversation. That's what I did with Elvin. Like, did it sound? He's like, no, and he understands. Like, he knows the situation too. And no, you were calm, you were loving. It's just she did what she wanted to do, but no, it did no. And if she got offended, right. So in communication, here's something to remember. We have control over how we throw the ball. When I say throw the ball, it's what we say. We can throw it like that and attack the other person, or we can toss it gently. What we have control over how we throw the ball, what we say, how we say it, the tone, not attacking the other person. And those are more skills that we're going to learn in the assertive communication class. However, what do we not have control over? What the other person does with the information we give them and how they respond to it and interpret it. We toss the ball. If that person's having a bad day, or everybody has their own history, their own story, they could feel like you. And you're like, no, I gently tossed the ball, but they felt that based on what they've been through in their lives, right? So we can only control our part of the story. There are two people, or maybe several, being communicated with, right? So that's why we need to learn these skills so that we know in our heart of hearts, the way we communicated was good, loving, calm. It was the best we had at the moment. We were giving them our best, and no looping, or less looping, less second guessing. And the fourth thing we could do is practice self-validation. After the conversation, try saying, I'm proud of how I showed up. Like, I showed up for her. I'm being more of an advocate for her than she is. And she doesn't see it. She's in it, right? It's like, I got to get my dad to the car. And this is, in her mind, that was the path of least resistance. But I'm proud that I showed up to her. Maybe it's something she'll think about. Like, you got to take care of your health. The caregiver always has to take care of themselves, because then how can you give good care to the patient, right? The loved one. And also, I chose honesty over perfection. That's another thing we can look at. Was I honest? Did I tell the truth without the sting? I was honest. But again, honesty does not mean being rude and aggressive and insulting to people. That's why we need to learn these skills. We don't want to offend. And truthfully, the more emotionally intelligent we become, the more balanced and reasonable we become. A lot of people say, I'm a all or nothing person. I'm from one extreme to the other. But the more we work on our emotions and we learn about ourselves and we become emotionally intelligent, we actually become more reasonable and balanced. So it's a blessing, it's a protection. And remember, you don't need external approval to trust your own voice, because not everyone is going to like what you say, even if it's honest, loving, and kind. Because everybody has their own story, right? So here's another example of second guessing your voice when you're setting a boundary with someone. Pay attention, because we talk about boundaries a lot around here. And this is what I want you all to do. Every relationship needs boundaries. Every relationship needs boundaries. But we're afraid to set them because how will they respond, right? So here it goes. I finally said no to something I did not want to do. Then I spiraled all night wondering if I sounded rude or selfish. Because people will say that. How dare you? Why not? We always do this. How can you? When you advocate for your own needs, you may second guess yourself, especially if you're not used to doing it. When you set a boundary, please don't do this, or no, I'm not going to do that, or no, not today, I'm not available. And the person comes back and says, what? What do you mean? But you have to. Da-da-da. When we advocate for our own needs, we're not used to doing it. We feel so guilty. But you did good. Pat yourself on the back. Others may not understand it. They may not approve it. Why? Who would like? No, none of us like limits being put on us. But they're there for a reason. And we have the right to advocate for our own needs. But that can also start a spiral. Okay. So, what's the bottom line of why we don't advocate for our needs, why we don't speak up? Because we don't feel worthy. We don't feel that we have the right to speak up to us for ourselves. And later, in a few minutes, we're going to get to the nitty gritty of that. Okay, the feeling of worthiness. Fabiola says life would be more enjoyable and more in the moment. Yes, if you didn't second guess the things that you say. Exactly. Andrea says, set boundaries with 3 exclamation points. Yes, Andrea. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Here's another quote. You don't have to be loud to be heard. You just have to be honest. Okay, so you're allowed to speak up. I'm giving you permission, but give yourself permission to use your voice. You're also allowed to be unsure sometimes. You don't have to be decisive about everything. We're humans. We don't know everything. That's okay. And if you say, you know what, give me a few days to think about it, whatever the thing, it's okay. And also, you're still worthy, even if your words aren't perfectly polished. We don't look for perfection anymore. We have to really throw perfection out of the window. It is not realistic. And we're not going to go around and every moment we just say it. No, that okay. So let's get into why we second guess ourselves. The root of unworthiness. Here's what unworthiness sounds like, because that's the bottom line. We say, who am I to speak up? I probably sounded stupid. They're going to think I'm too much or not enough. I should have kept that to myself. Right? These aren't just random thoughts. They're symptoms of a deeper belief that what I say doesn't matter unless it's perfect, pleasing, or proves my worth. Isn't that interesting? I'm going to say it again. What I say doesn't matter. This is a belief that we may not have been aware of. We believe that what I say doesn't matter unless it's perfect, pleasing, or proves my worth. But okay, so perfection does not exist. That's not reality. Pleasing, it depends on the receiver, how they interpret what I say. Even if I've wrapped it beautifully and said it in the right tone and I'm smiling as I say, not everyone is going to interpret it in that way, or that it interpret that it's coming from a loving place. And prove my worth, I'm worthy just because I am. I don't have to prove my worth, but I have to believe myself that I have worth. That's where the problem lies. That's where we have to start the work. And so there's a cycle of self-doubt. What does it look like? You speak up, just say you set a boundary. No, I'm not going to do that, or please don't do this. Immediately self-doubt creeps in. You replay the words, you overanalyze. What was my tone, my timing, the reaction? You feel regret, shame, or embarrassment, even if no one reacted negatively, because we also imagine, right? And you vow to stay quiet or get it right the next time. But it's not about your words being wrong. Listen at this closely. In Spanish, I love it. They say, ojo, or like, look at this. It's about how you feel about yourself at a core level. And that's what this channel is all about, emotional well-being, knowing who you are, what you want to work on and become better at, what your strengths are, not expecting perfection from yourself, and learning to love yourself in a whole way, recognizing that you have strengths and you have weaknesses. Doesn't every human being have that? And standing in your truth and knowing your worth, who you are, what you bring to the table, that permeates every aspect of our life. And as we get better at it, all our relationships shift and change for the better. There's a quote I say all the time, you change, your whole environment changes. And that's strange when we hear it at first, because we always think, if this and this and this person change in my life, then my life is going to be golden. But that means our happiness and our contentment is depending on these people changing. We can't control other people, and that's where the frustration begins. But we can't. We have no control. The only person we have control over is ourselves, and isn't that a job in itself, right? So don't look over there. Look here. Be determined to learn your worth and be convinced of it. Stand in your truth. Know who you are, what you bring to the table, who you are at the core. Okay? Self-love, self-care, all linked together. And that's why we're here. So I appreciate you for coming and learning so that we can all grow and continue to become better people. Okay? So where does this feeling about ourselves that we're not worthy, where does it come from? 4 different places. Childhood messaging. If you were dismissed, criticized, or punished for speaking up, you learn that words are risky. When I speak, there might be consequences. The second one is trauma. If your voice was ignored, or when you spoke, conflict broke out, your nervous system may link expressing yourself with danger. I'm going to say that again. If your voice was ignored or caused conflict in your environment, in your home, your nervous system links expressing yourself with danger. So it's like, no, we're not going there. Number 3, perfectionism. It's rooted in the belief that you have to earn belonging by performing perfectly, even in conversation. Some of you, I'm sure, are having aha moments like, oh, that's what things are coming to your mind. I know it. Memories, thoughts from your childhood. This is the root of it. And number 4, people pleasing. When self-worth, how I feel about myself, is tied to approval. If they like me, then I like me. Then I'm worthy. If they don't like me, I'm unworthy. When we have our self-worth tied up to the approval of others, we over-edit ourselves to avoid disappointing others. So we don't think we're worthy. We don't measure up. And that's also when our parents constantly compared us to other people. And again, we're here so we can learn how to see our worth, see our true value. And how I feel about me, how I feel about Karen is not linked to the approval of anyone. except my creator. I know my worth. I know what I bring to the table. I know what I offer to friendships, in my marriage, to my boss at work, to Vimes, to this community, to my clients, to the people that take my classes. I know what I bring to the table. Do you? And if you don't, I encourage you to work at that. Okay, let me look at the comments. Fabiola says, so there's nothing to second guess if we're certain that we're worthy. Because again, we're second guessing because we're afraid of the response of the other person and losing that connection. But when we know our worth, and this is, it may sound pompous, but when we know our worth, listen to me clearly. If that person pushes us away, they say, oh, and we know we've said what we had to say in truth, honesty, love, all the things. Are you ready for this? It's their loss. It's their loss. That's it. Moving on, because some of you are going to be like, Karen. It just says my poor nervous system. Yes, poor nervous system. So now you can be kinder to your nervous system. All right. What second guessing means? Again, it's your brain trying to protect you from rejection, judgment, or shame. It's a survival strategy, but it no longer serves you because that's why you're here. You're like, I don't want to do this anymore. So how do you reclaim your voice? Affirm. Say, my words do not need to be perfect to be worthy. Anchor. Before speaking, connect with your intention. Why do I want to approach her and say this? Why do I want to set this boundary? Not just your fear of the outcome. Oh, I don't want to say it because she's not gonna like that, or he's gonna be upset with me. Try to have your words come from a place of love and well-being for others. That's it. That's the motive. That's the intention. And then reflect. Notice who you feel most unsafe around and why. This is a really good one. Some may not even feel safe with their family. Some women don't feel safe with their husbands. Let's just be honest. And that tells you where the healing needs to happen. Why don't I feel safe around my husband to express myself freely, or my boss, or my best friend, or my sister, or my brother, or my mom, my dad? Why don't I feel safe? And then reparent. Talk to yourself the way a loving adult would speak to a nervous child. You say you did your best. Your voice matters. That's it. Move on. You did your best. Okay. So if you want to go deeper in this topic, the course is starting July 1st. Assertive Communication is designed to help you stop second guessing. Start speaking your truth with clarity, with calm, and with confidence. It starts July 1st. You can DM me on Instagram. If you're in the chat, you could say, Karen, I want to join the class. We kept the sale price of $127 up until Friday. We extended it. For those that are second guessing, should I? They're pondering, should I, shouldn't I? Yeah, Fabiola likes the idea of anchoring. Connect with your intention. It's a beautiful thought. So let's do some, Tiffany said, yes, Coach Karen, let's do some journal prompts so you could help you break the habit of second guessing your words. I don't want to just leave you like that. I want you to have things that you can chew on, work on, get your journal out, go sit outside, do your thinking. So number one, what situations trigger me to second guess what I say? These are journal prompts to help you break the pattern. I want you to reflect on the patterns, certain people, topics, or environments that make you feel unsure or overly self-critical. What are the situations that trigger me? Number two, what am I afraid will happen if I say the wrong thing? So explore the deeper fear: judgment, rejection, conflict, looking unintelligent, especially in the work environment, or maybe with a husband. right? And he has this superiority complex perhaps, or we put him on this level and we feel inferior to him, or with our boss or our coworkers, I'm not smart enough, I'm not intelligent. Where is the fear coming from? Explore it. Number 3, when have I spoken up and felt proud of myself, even if it was uncomfortable? So revisit those moments of courage to remind yourself that your voice is valuable. Okay. Number 4, do I trust that my voice has worth even when I'm imperfect? Again, we are imperfect, but why or why not? Dig into your self-worth and how it's tied to how you communicate. Number 5, what do I wish I could say more freely without overthinking? Wow. Practice giving yourself permission to speak authentically. And think, like, literally, if you really have an issue with this, write yourself a permission slip. We did those in school, right? And write yourself a permission slip and tell yourself, I give myself permission to speak authentically, and then sign it so that you can say what you want to say more freely without overthinking it, because the overthinking exhausts, it's exhausting. And the spiral, the thinking, it goes over and over. We have more important things to do, like having fun, like we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Was that last week? Number 6, what do I need to feel safer using my voice? So it might be boundaries, support systems, or inner tools that could help you. Figure that out. What do I need so that I can feel safer to use my voice? My nervous system can feel safe enough to let me speak. And lastly, how does my inner critic talk to me after I speak? What would a kinder voice say instead? So contrast the voice of fear, hear it, listen to it, say it, with the voice of fear to the voice of self-compassion. We want to be more compassionate, more merciful with ourselves. So healing your relationship with your voice, it takes time. But every step you take toward it, trusting yourself, is a step towards freedom, because you all want to break free. We want to break free from this, right? Here's another example of second guessing. Are you a person that says sorry a lot? You apologize really quickly? There are people who come on, I do my clients on Zoom, and the first few words, I'm so sorry, Karen. And I'm like, what are you apologizing for? They say sorry often. So you said sorry even though you didn't do anything wrong. You weren't wrong. You just didn't want to seem mean. The person maybe overreacted, and you, because of their history, and you apologized. And then later you're like, oh, why do I over apologize? Why do I minimize my own truth? Because I want to people please. I want other people to be comfortable. I'll be uncomfortable, but I want other people comfortable. That's not fair. Right? It's not fair. Is anyone in here that says sorry like a lot, a lot, a lot? It's like, are you sorry for your existence? That's something to work on. That's something to be aware of. If that rings a bell for you, if that rings bells in your head, like, oh yeah, I do that. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Why are you so sorry? Okay, and some of us apologize even when we know we're right and the other person is very wrong. And we apologize anyway because mommy, when we were younger, said, just apologize. You be the bigger person. And again, with balance, we want to be humble. We want to make the peace. We want to keep the peace. But if someone is outright wrong and they've totally misinterpreted, we or their actions are very inappropriate. Maybe they've attacked us in some way, even emotionally. You don't have to. You don't have to apologize, and especially over apologize. Yeah, this is ringing a. So Andrea says, that's my manager. Yeah. He says, sorry for everything. Fabiola says, I'm a sorryaholic. I love that. Yeah, yeah. And so what are we apologizing for? Okay. So if this episode resonated with you, take a moment to pause and reflect. Where can I how can I do better? How can I get to the root of my feelings of unworthiness and work on that? Okay. The course of assertive communication, again, it begins July 1st. Every day there's a simple challenge people have asked me, and it's not over the phone or in person. The challenges are done online by text messaging once a week. So for 4 weeks, we will have a live Zoom to talk more in depth. It's like 4 group therapy sessions that you get, and everyone grows to be like a family. There's a connection because everybody's on the same journey working together. If you cannot make those live classes, they will be recorded and you can see it at a later time. If you have more questions, feel free to get in the chat and let me know. You can also email me. My email information should be in the show notes, but I'll give it to you just in case. Yep, it's there under links. The WhatsApp group link is there. The email is there, KarenMCoach@gmail.com. My Instagram account is there, KarenM_coach. In fact, somebody was texting me while we were talking and said, a friend invited me. Can I have your IG information? So I'll send it to her afterwards. And we'll go together on this journey. You let me know you're interested. We'll sign you up and we'll get started. Okay? Next week, we're going to have another topic on communication. If you have a burning question about communication, put it in the chat and I'll consider talking about one of those topics. If not, I'll just choose a topic myself about communication. Okay? So again, pause and reflect. Journal, where am I holding back out of fear of being misunderstood or fear of not being liked, fear of being rejected, fear of being unloved, fear of losing this relationship? Yeah. We do it a lot, and we want to continue to work on ourselves so we know who we are and what we bring to the table. All right. So until the next time, speak gently to yourselves. Let your voice be heard. Remember, you deserve to take up space. You deserve to speak and have your voice heard. Please write that permission slip to yourself, sign it, put it up somewhere. I give myself permission to speak and let my voice be heard. And again, not in an unbalanced, crazy, throwing the ball way. No, we want to toss it gently. Be humble, be kind, be gentle. Take into consideration the other person's feelings and thoughts and their history, their emotional makeup. But say the thing. Say it, and don't overthink it and second guess it. All right? Does anybody have any questions? If you do, put them in the chat real quick. But if not, you can always put it in the group chat. Love you all. Mwah. Be well. Take care. And I'll see you soon. Bye. Let me see. Andrea said how to be patient when people talking nonsense. All right. Sounds good.
Victoria, I live in Youngsville, North Carolina, and I learned about this course through Coach Karen. When I started this course, I was dealing with a lot, still grieving my mom and trying to prioritize my time, and also was at risk of losing my job because I work for the Department of Ed, or I worked for the Department of Ed. And it was just a lot to manage. I love to help people, so I often prioritize people over myself, but there was a couple things that really stood out to me in the class. That was the wheel, where there's a victim, a rescuer, and a persecutor. And I found myself being a rescuer all the time, wanting to help people, volunteering my time. And I know there's nothing wrong with it, but what happens is when you don't prioritize yourself sometimes and you're always helping others and the things you need to get done is lost, then you become the persecutor. You're upset with them. How dare they expect me and ask me to do things for them when I've done this and I've done this and I've done this? And it's just so hard. I want to say no, but what are they going to do if I don't? And so just learning the balance of prioritizing things and learning to say no when they don't ask, when I can't do it, or when I don't want to do it. And then the color wheel that we did also helped me to understand that there was aspects of my life that I could improve on, but that were being minimized because I was helping others. Also, the experiences and having that group interaction was very helpful. So since then, I've learned to say no. I have more peace, and I'm excited to see what the future brings. I recommend this course because it truly does make a difference.
Hi, my name is Sean. I first found out about Vimes. I had a friend, she took a few of the courses in Spanish, and she, loved them so much. Unfortunately, though, they didn't have them in English, so I kept waiting, when. And first they started the one-on-one coaching in English, so I got a coach. At the time, I was going through a lot of mental stress, even some physical, and I didn't understand why. I had tried a few things that, didn't help me as much. But now I feel like they help me to understand myself better because of my background, my perception of certain things that's really helped me, for me to know why it's helped. And so now, before I make decisions, or even, if I have to catch myself afterwards, I'm able to question myself, well, why did this happen? Or what was I thinking, or something like that. And for me, that's a lot. I mean, I'm still a work in progress. I know things take time, but I appreciate, Vimes teaching me a lot about myself and my personality. Another thing that I like about Vimes, and I appreciate, is the price point. A lot of us have seen or tried things that cost a lot of money that, we really couldn't afford. And I feel like the courses are reasonable. The free YouTube videos, I mean, you can't beat that. It's a beautiful thing to really offer that for free. And so I appreciate them for that. So if you're thinking about Vimes, don't hesitate.
Hi, my name is Ita Alvarez. I currently live in Houston, Texas, and I found out about this channel and their courses through my good friend Jordana. She saw how much I was struggling with my health and shared the information with me. When I started, I was recently diagnosed with fibromyalgia. My body was in so much pain all the time. I could barely get out of bed some days. What impacted me the most was how quickly the aches started to go away. And since then, my life has changed tremendously. I was able to find happiness again. The constant pain had me absolutely miserable, and I was able to find joy in the things I once loved. I'll highly recommend Vimes and their courses to my friends and family because it truly makes a difference. It did for me.
Hi there, my name is Luz. I heard about the Vimes program through a really good friend. She posted a link, and I had been searching for something to help me during this time of motherhood and transitioning in my 40s. And it's been a fabulous tool for me to learn so much about myself. It's a form of self-care, to really sit down, take the time, and be alone with your thoughts and think about all the things that we really don't give ourselves time to think about. Just very insightful, simple to understand pointers that we hear so many buzzwords about: being present, just self-help, but putting it all together in simple terms that anyone can implement. A woman who's busy can do it. If I can do it, definitely anyone else, because it is a long, hard day sometimes with children at home, little ones. But we are so benefiting from this program. One of the things that I loved was change yourself, change your surroundings. I've definitely experienced that with my family. And look at me. This is a new surrounding. We're away and enjoying. It has been a couple years since We took a trip and we realized we needed this trip, and I would say I would credit what I've learned about making sure to take care of yourself. So come join us, and thank you so much for being here.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Brooks. I live in Alabama. I was recommended the Vimes course by a dear friend. I started this journey a bit lost, a new transition in my life, and so I was trying to figure out what things make me happy, what things I like doing, and what things just in general to make me happy. The biggest thing I've learned in this journey is that I can trust myself, that I am willing and I am capable, and that emotions aren't a scary thing. Emotions help teach us things. It helps better us. And by using the better emotional tools, it's helped me to be a happier person. I'm open to new ideas and things don't seem as scary so much. I've learned to embrace these things, changes in my life. I feel like it's made me a better friend, a better wife, a better mother. And I hope to continue this journey and to continue to learn more about myself as I enter different phases of life, understanding how they impact me and how they make my life better. And I love sharing the things that I've learned with others because I feel like they can benefit also. I would recommend this channel to anyone that wants to help themselves or to better understand their emotional health. And I hope you decide to join the channel, and I will continue on my journey as well. You take care. Bye.